Howdy and hello, my name is Doe, hope you're doing good, and today I want to go over the biggest problem I see in Dauntless, and that is the existence of modifiers. I don't think they should be erased from the game, but I do think they should be taken a pretty good look at and tailored more to the behemoths that they're on, or changing which modifiers exist on which behemoths, because at the moment, it just seems like a freaking Frankenstein goulash of random things slapped onto behemoths, and it doesn't really add for an enjoyable experience. And even when modifiers were first added to the game, they weren't exactly fun to go against for the most part because they just felt so overwhelming for no particular reason. An example is going to be whenever back in the day we had heroic patrols. We had patrols in general, I guess. You had Pangar with ice spikes. Every single time I fought Pangar, I was just like, gotta watch out for these ice spikes. I knocked Pangar over. I should have this window of opportunity to hit Pangar while I interrupted it. But look what just happened. You have ice spikes on the ground. And they'd make it so I had to just move around like an idiot and just not hit the behemoth at all. I just interrupted it and I can't get benefit from that interrupt. That's not fun. You also had Hellion, which had nacho cheese volcano action going on. It would just be spewing lava all over the ground. It'd basically be covered entirely, and the only real meaningful way to deal with it was to bring a cell like Fireproof or Molten, which would make it so that mechanic, that fire on the ground, no longer existed, which basically made it so it wasn't a mechanic at all. There was just no point in looking at it, no point whatsoever. And I guess Molten's more interactive than Fireproof, but still, it just erased that mechanic entirely. Pull Shot had Aether Shrapnel on its quills, which would hit you. Let's say you dodge a quill, right? You dodge a quill on Heroic Deadeye Quill Shot. The Aether Shrapnel is an AoE that would hit you even if you dodge the very same quill. The explosion would hit you. And to ignore that, you bring Shell Shock Resistance. And it's like, bro, we can't be having these weird ways to deal with fights. Now, I get on Quill Shot you can walk in circles, but like, come on now. Is that really fun? Is that really a good way to deal with a mechanic? Just like walk in circles like an idiot? So that's an example of way back when we had modifiers to a pretty small degree. Now we have something like Trials. Trials comes out, first trial ever. Heroic Shockjaw Nizaiga, or not heroic, but Shockjaw Nizaiga, I guess. Has freaking Nearsight from Shroud, Icy Grasp from Pangar, Aftershocks / Tremors from Ragetail Gnasher, and on top of that had like Shielded, Fortifications, Electrify, not big deals, but the first three were ridiculous, bro. Nearsight is only going to work if it's tailored to a behemoth. On Shroud, you have the glowing eyes, you have the sound it makes while it's in this, I guess, Nearsight mode. It makes sense. There's a method to the mayhem, and it's fair. They also put this modifier on Shrike. It does not make sense. You cannot see a single thing happening. There's no glow on its wings, no glow in its eyes when it's in this like weird dark mist. You don't know what's happening. It's not tailored for the behemoth. Why is it there? Icy Grasp isn't on a timer. All right, that's a lie. It's on a freaking timer, and that is the biggest problem. If it was tied to Enrage, which I think it was on a timer and also tied to Enrage, but if it was like just on Enrage or like an actual like phase of a fight, it's fine. Not a big deal. But whenever you interrupt a behemoth and Icy Grasp is going off, it sucks. And then Aftershocks, bro. They can be skillful, but I feel as if there's a decent amount of desync every now and then where you dodge an attack, you dodge the attack properly, but then the Tremors hit you. That's not enjoyable. And some behemoths like Skarn, the Tremors go out in weird ways, so I have strong feelings against Tremors, but I think they can exist in some way or fashion. But just slapping them on like any behemoth, like on Rezakiri, for instance, it had two sets of Tremors. On the head slam and the tail slam during Aether form, two sets of Tremors coming out. Like, who's thinking of this freaking evil? It's just downright evil you can put into the fights. So adding these modifiers makes it so the experience is just unenjoyable. The modifiers you can ignore is lame, because why even have it there in the first place if you can just ignore it using a freaking a cell? That just means that a new player is going to get rolled and be like, wow, this sucks. I'm not having fun. And until they get the cell, they're just like, I don't have to think about it whatsoever anymore because I have this. That's the initial case, right? Like, I think Trials is worst case scenario. Also, little tidbit here. I think Trials is one of the worst additions in the game ever. And most of that is because of modifiers. Like, the modifiers just make the modes not very enjoyable 9 times out of 10. But don't you worry, Phoenix Labs heard this news and was like, you know what, let's go ahead and add even more modifiers. So they released something called Aggressive Fauna, which was like Styxians. And they also pretty much made it so you could get bombers and spitters and whatnot as modifiers. The Styxians were supposed to not attack you if you're close to a behemoth. That was a lie. They'd be pouncing on you, knocking you over, all kinds of dumb stuff when you're freaking on a behemoth's noggin for a while. It still happens, by the way. And they even added these Styxians to the Frost Embermane. So they keep trying to make something that doesn't work, and it's ridiculous. It's like literally insanity. Now, moving on the timeline, we fast forward to escalation. And we have modifiers still, but it's not that big a deal because most of the time the modifiers aren't the super annoying ones. There's different escalations that have different modifiers trying to, you know, spice up a little bit. So it's tolerable. Not ideal, but tolerable. But recently they added Elder and Primal Behemoths. Primal Behemoths are fine, but Elder Behemoths are freaking stupid, bro. They got Elder Shields, and they are these rotating little Fortnite shields around a Behemoth. They don't go away until you kill the Behemoth, and if you hit them, they will shock you. Now, granted, the way they're supposed to work, if you're on the inside, you will not get shocked anymore. Well, a Behemoth can be staggered on the ground and just move a little bit. Not attack you, but just move a little bit. It'll nudge you just at the perfect angle where you hit the shield. And let's say you parry a Shrike, right? Shrike has Elder Shields. You parry it, knock it over. You also get shocked in the process by the shield, even though you parried it. It just adds a lot more dumb stuff that can happen during a fight that doesn't really make the game more enjoyable. And we already have things that make us focus parts in a pretty meaningful way. Warpike, if you want to make a wound, you get Aether Rush. You have to focus a part to do that in the first place. So if you have a freaking Elder Shield blocking you from doing that, that's not really enjoyable. That's just like the game saying like, yeah, you can't hit that right now. You can't hit that right now. This is a no-hit zone. It does not add for an enjoyable gaming experience. And just all the interactions you can experience with these modifiers is just rough. If the Elder Shields were tied to a phase and didn't last super long, it would be tolerable. Wouldn't be perfect, but tolerable. But instead, it's just a persistent effect on a Behemoth, and it does not add to the experience of the fight whatsoever. And basically, to sum up the whole video, I just want the fights to be more interactive. I want there to be phases that have some kind of meaning, and modifiers need to be tailored to Behemoths. You cannot just Frankenstein stitch on all these random modifiers on a fight and just call it good. It's not how it works. We tried it with Trials. It sucked. The people that like it are the folks that just play the game all the time. It's all they're good at. It's all they really deal with. You don't really want those folks as your focus group on whether or not something is good. You don't want that. And I get listening to player feedback can be kind of a double-edged sword because they don't always know what they're talking about. But all I'm saying is, this ain't it, Chief. Modifiers in their current state are not it. I will say, though, actually, I will add, there's one modifier that I actually like a lot. It's the one that creates circles around you, and if you're close to a Behemoth, they won't hit you. I think that that's interesting. I think that that's actually kind of nice because if you're standing in Narnia, you can't just sit there and do nothing. You have to either move or be close to a Behemoth and actually hitting it. So there is some light in this dark tunnel for modifiers. And one more example of a good modifier is going to be on Shockjaw Zygo, when it makes that 6-pronged pylon that has a shield around it, and it sends a lightning bolt towards it, and that fires a lightning ball. If you hit the lightning ball back into it, it gets rid of the shield, and you can destroy it. That's a great way of doing a modifier for a Behemoth, because it's still mechanic. You don't need any cells to deal with it, but if you want to make it easier on yourself, then you can bring things like Insulated, and that's fine. But when you don't have the initial way of overcoming a modifier through mechanics, and you just default to cells, that's a pretty big issue. But what's even worse is when you have something like Elder Shields where there is no cells to avoid it, so there is this just really annoying modifier to deal with, and it will find a way to make your gaming experience unenjoyable. Something will happen, some weird thing will occur because it's not meant for the Behemoths. It's not tailored to them at all. It's a freaking skirt, like a one-size-fits-all, I guess, but that's not really, like, universal fit doesn't actually mean universal fit, right? There are some folks it will not fit on, and that's the case in Dauntless. I almost forgot to give an example of a game that did difficulty really well, and I say did because the game's now dead. But WildStar and MMO did difficulty amazingly well. The players used telegraphs to attack, so everything you did was aimed, and that felt rewarding. And the encounters you encountered, wow. The freaking raids and dungeons also used telegraphs. The bosses, the trash mobs, even like random traps had telegraphs, which was a set way on how to avoid it. And that just made it to where there was little room for BS happening, because there was just almost always a way to avoid something. Now, you couldn't solo the content because it's a freaking MMO. It's meant to be played in a group. 5-man, whether it's 20-man, doesn't matter. But still, everything that happened could be countered In some cases, it required teamwork, but the main point still stands. The difficulty was done in a way that made sense. It wasn't really random. It was just a matter of getting better. In Dauntless, I don't feel like that's the same, especially not with modifiers. It's just a bunch of BS waiting to happen in the game for the most part. It's about dealing with RNG. So that's my example, and I do suggest y'all to watch some videos if you get some time, because Wildstar was an amazing game. Maybe watch how the game died from that one guy. I don't know his name. So that's what I think, and let me know what y'all think in the comments below. And I will say this, the Dauntless devs are doing a much better job of how they implement things and trying to explain their thought process. I'm just saying that modifiers are probably not it, especially in their current form, so I would suggest not to keep going down this route, but that's just me. But aside from that, that's the video, y'all. Hope you liked it. If you did, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you want, use credit code OhDough in the Epic Games Store or the in-game Dauntless Store. It helps me out a freaking ton. I got a Twitch channel at twitch.tv/OhDough, a separate TikTok and YouTube at OhDoughless for Apex content and whatnot. Other than that, have a beautiful day, and I'll catch you later. Peace.